that's where, this other page comes in. You guys can read this, or Trey, you can go over this with them, but he was looking at bringing in a formula called inflavanoid intensive care, to be used as a natural anti-inflammatory and pain reliever.
We have till 11, just so you know. If you
We have about, depending on your time, but we have about 30 more minutes.
Okay, what time does that have till around 10:30?
It's 10:25.
Oh, it is, okay. So the inflavanoid intensive care includes, and you can look at the box down here. It includes what's called curcumin and xanthohumol, boswellia, and ginger. So curcumin is an herb, and these are a lot of symbols and a lot of words in this box here, but that's all representative of inflammation markers. So curcumin is able to lower all of those inflammatory markers, which would make you less inflamed. Xanthohumol is a hops extract, which does the same, and boswellia is an herb, which also helps with that, and ginger is an herb that also helps with that. I want you guys to understand that the curcumin, the xanthohumol, the boswellia, that herb, and the ginger, those are all things that work in this stage, the first stage of inflammation. They don't work in the chronic stage where it's still lingering. So if it's gonna work, it's gonna work here. And if the person is pain-free and inflammatory-free, it did what it was supposed to do. But if the person is still having some issues and the inflavanoid or fish oil or whatever medication they're on is not working 100%, then you know that their inflammation is still existing in step 2. And the only thing that tells it in step 2 that it's time to go away is what's called an SPM. And typically you get the SPM because the body makes it naturally. So if you're not making enough of it, then you're always lingering right here. Do you pair the two together? Fish oil and flavonoid and an SPM? Absolutely. They don't do each other's job. So when you're using fish oil or inflavanoid to help with inflammation and it goes away, it did what it was supposed to do in step 1. If it just goes down a little bit and the person is still having problems like the skin issues or pain, they need the SPM to complete the job because their body isn't making enough SPMs to speak the message. In this stage of inflammation, it's like, in this stage, you need to hear turn down inflammation in English. And in this stage, you need to hear turn down inflammation in Spanish. You have to hear a different language. So speaking this message over here won't work. It has to be transmitted differently. It has to be coded differently. And SPM works here for chronic, and fish oil and herbs and medications work here for acute.
Yeah, because guys, I took this. I was like, oh, it's like a natural painkiller.
It is.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'll just keep it on my shelf. Like one day I was like just having a headache, and I'm like, man, I need an adjustment. But I'm like, I don't have time right now. And then I was like, oh, I'll just try this. Like, we take painkillers for the headaches. I was like, I'll try this. So I tried it, took 2 of them, and like within 5 minutes, my headache was gone. I was like, oh, this is powerful, you know. So it's not just like, oh, some winkadink little thing, like take Tylenol, that will work, and then you can try this one. Because when someone takes Tylenol or ibuprofen, specifically ibuprofen or Advil, literally it like blows holes in your gut. And we know what leaky gut causes all the inflammation. So if you think about it this way, so if you're taking something to inhibit the inflammation in phase 1, right, and then you're blowing holes in the gut, it's creating more inflammation, then you have more pain, and you have to take more of this constantly, and then more pain. So it's like you're becoming a cycle of just where you're going down a toilet really fast of now you have knee pain, now you have to have knee surgery. It's just like a very quick cycle of all that inflammation wreaks havoc on your cardiovascular system and whatever it is. So I was like, man, again, we have to think in a holistic perspective. We can't just say, oh, here's for your leaky gut, and then they're still taking, or they're still eating gluten, or they're still taking, you know, their NSAIDs,
Exactly.
and it's like, you gotta like educate them a little bit. Like, yeah, that's like taking a live grenade. You're blowing these holes in your gut. Switch over to our herbs. It works just as well.
Okay. Quick question. Is there anything that you know off the top of your head, supplement wise, to help with thyroid issues? So hypo, hyper, anything like that. I myself and I know a lot of my clients struggle with it.
Well, we have a formula called Thyroxol, which is a nutritional support formula for the thyroid gland. All the nutrients required by the thyroid gland to function correctly are in Thyroxol.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the use of that for hyper.
Okay. Because it's overactive. But for hypo.
Right.
Okay.
Hyper, I would probably suggest doing some type of nutri-eval or sending them to an endocrinologist, because with that, with an overactive thyroid gland, you usually have to have a low soy diet, a low
Gluten.
iodine diet, and you sometimes are missing certain nutrients. Like selenium can counteract iodine. You need to know what nutrients are. In a situation like that, I wouldn't play around with thyroid.
Okay. So being a nutritionist with hypo, what could you just suggest for me? Like,
Thyroxol.
okay, and overall health-wise, what could I cut out? Because I take Synthroid every day since I was 12. And my doctor's always told me you're always going to take that. And that's okay. But if there's something that I could do naturally to... And I have a client that says don't eat gluten at all, ever. But...
Yeah, I would never in a million years tell you to take Thyroxol and cut back on your thyroid medication.
Right.
Because it's something that has to be done in balance.
Right.
And if you cut back on your thyroid medication too fast, without your thyroid working to the level that it needs to work, I promise you will not feel it.
Yeah, totally. But is there like foods, anything that I could do? Obviously exercise, drink a lot of water, but is there anything that you know directly correlates to more inflammation in your thyroid? Or is it just kind of overall, whatever inflames your gut is going to inflame your thyroid if you have an issue with it?
Whatever inflames your body, inflame your body as a whole.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you can turn down inflammation. That's a chronic inflammation thing. That would be SPM active.
Okay.
And with hypothyroidism, sometimes it's the issue of your thyroid gland not being able to turn its hormones into different forms of the thyroid hormone. That's where the Thyroxol comes into play.
Okay.
It can make the thyroid work more efficiently. And so if you stay being tested on your labs, maybe you can come down some of the dosage, but that's something that has to be determined with the lab work and
Okay.
the doctor.
Cool. Thank you.
And also, I think like could be autoimmune. Some people with hypo is because you're creating immune cells attacking your thyroid. So you have to test for a TPO enzyme or TPO antibody.
My doctor always told me that hypo isn't an autoimmune. It's when it develops in Hashimoto's is when it becomes an autoimmune.
Yeah, 35% of all Hashimoto's is undiagnosed from hypo. So, and normal doctors don't test for TPO antibody. So he would have to test for that
So I should ask my doctor to test for TPO.
TPO antibody.
What does TPO do?
If he knows, I don't know what kind of doctor you're seeing.
Yeah.
A regular MD. She's just my...
Most likely they have no idea.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's where you gotta go.
You could, I mean, I think Dr. Melita
Yeah.
knows a lot of that.
Okay.
There's a functional medicine doctor right here in Allen, Julia Liachi.
That's another thing. We need to have you back and like, okay, if someone has this, like, where do we refer them to? Because we have anything from like stress and like, you need some kind of counselor to like whatever, right? So.
I will do my best to piecemeal referrals for you together. Collin County is really just starting to grow, so there's not as much in Collin County yet, but it's happening.
Groovy. Awesome.
Okay, so the last thing is NSAIDs, let's just talk about a little bit about some of the consequences of that. So, someone is always in pain. They're a weekend warrior. They do a lot on the weekends, a lot of activity. They go to the gym. They just have this chronic stuff. Their lower back hurts all the time. They just want to keep getting through life. This was my husband for a long time. Just go right in the counter and grab that Advil, that ibuprofen. Pop it. Every single day. Because it will wear out your stomach lining. The risk of an upper GI bleed is 3 to 4 times higher in people taking NSAIDs, and it has also been linked to increased inflammation and arthritis. You can bleed out. It doesn't happen in everybody, but it has happened in some people, which is very scary and sad. But you can end up bleeding out. Take too many. Especially your athletes or your young kids in high school, and they're athletic. And here, just, take some ibuprofen for that. You take too much of that and you ruin the stomach lining. Then one day you've got to bleed. The inflavonoid intensive care will lower your pain and inflammation the same level that an NSAID will, and there's not one contraindication to its use. Not one.
Is that the one we were talking about earlier?
The inflavonoid intensive care that he was taking randomly for his pain, yeah. It really, really is an effective, natural pain reliever.
I want to try that.
I also saw a study that was like, you take 1 Tylenol and you increase your heart attack risk, like by double. And it was just like, I was like, wow. And then I also saw another study, you take Tylenol and not only does it kill your pain, it kills your empathy as well.
Oh,
I was like, empathy? I was like, no wonder we have such angry, I don't care people rocking around.
Driving in their car.
Yeah.
Wow. The other little tidbit of information is that NSAIDs, so prescription medications, over-the-counter medications for pain and inflammation, NSAIDs don't let your body hear the SPM message, which means the more NSAIDs you take, the less ability you have to resolve any chronic inflammation.
Is that through the COX pathways?
How rude. What's a band-aid?
Is that what the FM and Achenon is like the COX
My last class is
pathway
scheduled.
to help the enzyme to really get all the cytokines messages or trying to figure out
But
the
she didn't
mechanism
confirm
of action there.
Yeah, and I have a little picture I'll have to send you. So there's different pathways. So when we have the initial inflammation, we're looking at the COX-2 pathways and prostaglandin pathways. And because fish oil can
Look,
go
so
down those pathways
I
and
don't know what to wear
curcumin
on.
can
I have
go
to
down
get
those
ready,
pathways,
shower,
and
and
NSAIDs
drive all
can
the
go
way
down
out to
those
Allen.
same
I
pathways.
could just stay in Allen today.
The
for
NSAIDs
you?
will be, blocking messaging from going down the pathway,
Today?
but the inflavonoid is turning down the volume of the
Yeah.
message. So the messages, the less it can be heard. If I'm screaming the message, then you hear that, you're like, okay, pain.
Yeah.
You don't hear a lot, so you don't repeat it in a pain. That's all here, but the pathways here for chronic inflammation are some different pathways. So acute and chronic.
Uh-huh.
So that's why the fish oil and NSAIDs and inflavonoid work here but not here,
Okay.
because they're different pathways.
Gotcha.
And you need an SPM to start the communication of these pathways in resolution.
Gotcha.
Inflammation has 2 stages, a pathway here and a pathway here, but they're not the same pathways. So you literally have to go down this pathway and then go over to this side and go down this pathway. And in making the transition from here to here, if you're taking NSAIDs, it basically puts a big red X right here, and it doesn't let you transition.
So you're just a buildup of chronic inflammation.
Yes, exactly. The more NSAIDs you take, the more buildup of chronic inflammation you'll have, and you never really stop feeling the pain, so you keep taking more of this, But it's not this pain pathway that you're having an issue with anymore. It's this pathway,
Jeez.
which is an SPM.
So is that inflavonoid, is that something you would take every day or just whenever you're like feeling pain?
You
or-
can do either, because there's no harm to the body. You can do either.
So it's definitely something you'd recommend for people who get like chronic migraines often.
Sure. But something chronic anything chronic could also be the need for the SPM.
Right.
But
So
yes,
like
you
both,
could.
they would go right.
I have known someone to use the SPM active for migraines, hormonally induced migraines, and find some resolve. But she took both.
Is sulfura clear antioxidants? Could you explain sulfura real fast?
Sulfura clear.
No, it comes from broccoli.
That formula helps put into our body a compound called sulforaphane, which originates from broccoli. And sulforaphane, that compound, will in and of itself go down the pathways in the body that create antioxidants. So it does increase our antioxidant production in our body. I'm sorry, I didn't know I had these turned on. You just turned it off. That's my daughter, she's sick.
You can answer it.
I'm gonna have to call her back. She
Yeah.
probably needs to come home from school. So in that regard, it does help increase more antioxidant production. It also goes down the pathway of neutralizing toxins.
Okay.
And it also goes down a pathway of lowering this inflammatory message over here.
So every acne client.
Sure.
Okay.
And I think acne clients would need SPM. Do you mind if I call
Go for it.
No, not at all.
Because I think I knew she wasn't gonna come. And she's at school.
We also just started carrying the new product, Gluten Digest,
Oh.
which,
That's good. Hello?
which, you know, like we're talking about leaky gut,
Oh, you do?
gluten is in so many, even as we stay away from gluten, I'm finding like, oh man, it could be in like sushi, it could be, you know, in just things that I would, even like gluten-free products, there's, for you to be listed as gluten-free, you have to be just under a certain threshold of gluten, so it still has gluten in it. And so like, sometimes we'll have gluten-free bread and it's just like, ah, dang it, like, I'm still eating gluten that's causing some sort of havoc on my gut. So whether you're gluten-free or not, it would be really good, especially if you're going out to dinner. Like if you have clients that are like, oh, I'm already gluten-free. Well, if you go out to dinner, that food is gonna be contaminated with gluten just because there's bread in the kitchen, you know? So, but I don't know how many people you guys know that. Like, are there a lot of your clients that are gluten-free?
They are just by diet choice, but
Yeah.
I don't know because they actually like got diagnosed with.
Oh, most
Or like
people.
celiac.
Yeah, most people are just by diet choice these days.
A
So
couple of them.
I think Gluten Digest would be it's going to be a very popular product to help making sure that we don't create a leaky gut, and it's literally one of the best. I was looking at their research papers. My friends take another one that this stuff just came out a few months ago because I just saw it like 3 months ago. This company was promoting that they have an enzyme that digests gluten, and then Metagenics came out with their own study that showed that their enzyme digests gluten better than this one by levels of gluten in the blood or whatever. So it was super impressive.
I can tell you about the research. It is super impressive because I can't do gluten, and so I have Gluten Digest with me all the time. It'll be in my bag because if we randomly go to a restaurant or something like that, you just never know when you're gonna get it. I always take it whenever I eat out and I don't have control over the food. I always take it. So Spectrazyme Gluten Digest, it contains an enzyme called NPEP. And the way this works is the molecular bond, just pretend that gluten, its molecular structure looked like a strand of pearls. You know how you would have a ball and then a string and a ball and a string and a ball and a string? imagine the gluten digest as being little scissors that snips everywhere there's a string. So you have a gluten strand, but then when you snip, now you have a ball. Snip, now you have a second ball. Snip, now you have a third ball. Snip, now you have a fourth ball. And when you snip that, you're actually snipping and breaking up the gluten strand. And the enzyme itself just like a Pac-Man
Eats away.
eats it away. So here's the wonderful part. It does that in the stomach. So when you take it with your food, it does that in the stomach, which means if you ate gluten, but you took the enzyme with it, it ate it in the stomach, nothing enters your intestines. It's like you never ate it.
So you can eat gluten.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I want it.
I was like, oh, I went to Torchy's and I'm like, gluten digest. I'm like, flour tacos.
I know some people who can't have gluten, and knowing what they know, they have done this. Like at a birthday party, they want a cake, or at a wedding, they want a cake, or they wanted a beer, a
Yeah.
regular beer, you know, and
Yeah.
so they take the gluten digest and they don't have the issues that they have. And I will say this as well, you could not pay me to do this because I do not feel good when I eat gluten. However, they did not only run the studies on people who are gluten sensitive, but they also ran the studies on true celiac patients.
Oh wow.
If I was true celiac, you could not have paid me to do this, but they ran it on celiac and there was no complication.
Wow.
I want it.
impressive.
So the difference between our enzyme for gluten and the others that are on the market is the enzyme's ability to what we call cleave or snip. The others that are on the market can snip on the outer ends. 1 ball, 2 ball, 1 ball, 2 ball, but you still have the strand. So part of the gluten gets in, not all of it, but part of it. Our enzyme snips every single strand and then eats it.
Also in the stomach, the other
In the
ones do
stomach.
it in the intestines, so you have to wait for it to get into the intestines, cause a little bit of havoc, then they'll do it, and then it's still, the body of it is still there, and it'll still cause a little bit of havoc, you know, so.
So me not being able to do gluten, and I'm telling you, I get chronic fatigue, I get depression, I get black circles under my eyes. I won't go to the bathroom for like a whole week, not that you all wanna know this, but I'm telling you, gluten is a big deal. And
Helps with puffiness.
well, if I eat gluten, I get puffy.
Yeah.
So if I take the digestive enzyme, then I'm not having that issue because it's inflammation, water retention. So anyway, so I was in a hotel. Oh, thank God. I was in a hotel, and I was gonna get some eggs for breakfast, and it was made to order omelet. So I got egg white and spinach, and I sat down to eat. And I ate it, and I started getting this bad migraine. And I don't always have issues from gluten right away. They come like later in the day or the next day. But I was getting this bad headache, so I knew something was off. So I went back and I said, "Were those real eggs?" They weren't. They were cartoned eggs. And what I didn't know about liquid egg whites that come in cartons or powder is they put gluten in there to help thicken them. So there was gluten in the egg whites that was added. So there was gluten there. So I had it and I took it after I had already eaten. But as the food is still in the stomach and you put this in, like there's still a timeline there where it's still gonna be effective. My headache went away. So I knew that I had gotten the gluten. Another example is we had a gal whose mom could not handle ice cream. And lo and behold, to thicken ice cream, they put gluten in the dairy. So she took the gluten digest with the ice cream and she was totally fine. So it was never the dairy that she had the issue with.
Interesting.
It was the gluten that was put in the dairy. Now there's a lot of other things you wouldn't think of. Gluten gets put into hot dogs. Gluten is a thickener. Remember what I said? It makes the breads thick and structural. So you have to think about what you're eating. Salad dressings, if they're thicker, because it has gluten in it. So you've got to be careful.
Is there one of these for ice cream?
No. Unfortunately.
No. What do they say? It's like, oh, here's my here's my milk enzymes, here's my gluten
Right.
enzymes.
Gluten Digest is a phenomenal formula. I take it with me everywhere.
Yeah.
You can never be to have that and have a hall pass. If you think you got gluten, otherwise I gotta deal with it for 7 days. It's not pretty. But when I travel, I work trade shows or have to go to restaurants or anything, I always take it. It has been a lifesaver.
Awesome.
Okay, I know that if you were nursing, would you take Adrosat for having adrenal issues?
Yeah, I don't think that would be a problem. What I would do, oh, I should send you this. I just got a list of, this class I was taking was a herbal class, and they, put out a, herbs for breastfeeding list. I should email that to you. Some herbs for breastfeeding are just contraindicative, so you shouldn't. I don't know of Adrosat having that in particular on the label. So what you really need to do is take the different herbs that are in there and find out if they're contraindicated in lactation,
Okay.
and if they're not, so that's what I would do. And if I didn't see a contraindication by researching each single herb, then I would be fine taking it. I don't think there is an issue.
Cool.
And I'll send you that list when I can. Currently locked out of my work computer for some reason, so I can't send it to you right now until I get that fixed.
Okay, thank you.
But that's what I would do if I'm not.
I have a client. She's Muslim, I think.
Yeah.
I was trying to get her on SPM active, but she said because of the glycerin, she couldn't take it. Is there pork in it? Is it?
We only use bovine. So she's talking about glycerin as in gelatin.
Yeah.
We only use bovine, which comes from cow. We don't use any porcine, which is pig.
In any other products?
Nope.
Okay.
None.
Good to know.
None. So our capsules will either be vegetarian or cow. Usually vegetarian, except for like the soft gels.
Can you, I have a question, can you talk more about like the fillers that you guys use? Cause that's something I don't know too much about, and it's like, I know that if you go to Walmart, like their fillers are just typically just going to, lower quality ones are just not gonna get into your system. Your guys is supposedly digest better, but I noticed that there's still a lot of binders and fillers in there. Of course, I don't know the levels of them in each one, and then so I want to know like I take 30 to 40 pills a day. Taking all those fillers and binders, like, is that going to affect my system at all?
No, so first of all, as far as quality and purity is concerned, and this quality and purity would be fillers and binders, do we have junk in our formulas or not? So we send out to a third party called Eurofins for analysis, and they test for over 450 different contaminants, and it's going to show everything that's in the formula. So when you're looking at fillers and binders and like over-the-counter stuff, that's really non-absorbable stuff to the body. So you might be thinking that your capsule is the full amount when it's not, because it just has, I'm just pulling from the corn syrup solids or a filler in it, and you're really not getting what you're paying for. It's not the case with Metagenics in that we actually prove what's in there and what you're getting. For example, it's not fully launched yet, but it's going to be soon. We have something called True Quality.
I see that on your emails.
That's the name of our additional platform on the website. And so what you're going to be able to do here very, very quickly is any bottle of Metagenics formula, you can go right into the True Quality platform and you can type in the lot number and the Eurofins report of the 450 different contaminants that it looked for, and that what's on the bottle, stated on the label is actually in there. Like you can pull up that report from Eurofins.
Wow.
So you're gonna be able to see that pretty
Wow.
soon. And so in regard to any type of thing that we need to use to help with the tablet coating, or the capsule, the molecular form of that, which in general Google land might be known as a filler, but the molecular structure of what we create, even if it has the same starter name to it, is the molecular structure of something that is recognized by the body.
Okay.
And there are some things where FDA regulations, legally, we have to list it as the legal chemical name, which some of these things can have 6 different names, and those 6 other names are assumed to be a non-filler or acceptable to the body, when they're really not per se. No, let me reverse that. Which the true chemical name gets the bad rap,
Yeah.
but the alternate name
Which is
understood to be okay.
But it
Yet
still
it's the
has to be
same.
labeled as a bad. Gotcha.
So because we're a
Okay.
nutraceutical company and we fall in line with
Yeah.
all FDA regulations.
Yeah.
If the FDA says you must list all the ingredients by the true chemical name, we're listing by the true chemical name,
Gotcha.
which makes you think, oh, maybe that's bad.
Yeah.
But the alternate name is listed on other people's bottles and you think, oh, that's good because that's the good form. That's not really how it works.
Mhm.
The true chemical name, that name is what got the bad rap. They start coming out with these different names, so the bad rap isn't associated with that.
Gotcha.
But Metagenics isn't gonna use a chemical compound that wouldn't be
Okay.
accepted by the body. In the parts per million that we use, it wouldn't be received as an irritant or a toxin or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's just not plausible.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll keep those. Those are perfect. Thank you.
I need to
Man.
take more CoQ10 before I come see you guys. I forgot to take mine today.
I'm gonna drill you.
It's all good. It's all good.
I love it. Trying to think if there's anything. We just added the collagenics because I was like, oh, that's perfect. Like we have our beauty